And that moves us to the discussion agenda. Ms. Taylor?
Taylor has 73 slides.
All right, so it is that time of year where we do academic calendars. As alluded to in the last few meetings, we are going to do an experiment this year and do 2 years' worth of calendars at the same time. This will certainly, hopefully, allow families better planning and some long-range thinking. We had several goals in planning the calendars this year, several things we wanted to accomplish. The first is doing 2 calendars to allow that flexibility in planning for families. Dr. Ross's ask of us was to give the longest summer possible while we're in the term of the bond referendum, so that all of the construction projects that are needing to happen during the summer can have as many weeks as possible to do that. So we hopefully have accommodated that. We heard from the staff and community that starting in July was not preferred, so we wanted to avoid a July start date if possible, and still complete the year before Memorial Day. And then one thing we have found that is helpful during each year is to have one student, I put holiday, it's not really a holiday, but a day off for students, just a kind of rest and reset day per month for the students to have. And so we took these calendar drafts to several different groups for feedback this year. The executive team reviewed it, as well as principals, the Office of Accountability to check the math to make sure we've gotten all the days that we need to have and that the 9 weeks fall in the correct place, as well as the Parents Advisory Cabinet and the Faculty Advisory Committee. So all of these groups have looked at it, provided feedback. A lot of that feedback has been incorporated into the drafts that we have today. So for the 26-27 year, this is the draft calendar that we're presenting. And I'll just hit it very briefly. The start date for teachers is pushed back to August 4th, and the start date for students is August 11th. In even calendar years, we are required to close for Election Day, so that is reflected in the 26th November date there. And then this calendar looks very similar, other than the start dates being pushed back a little bit, to the calendars we have seen in previous years. There's a fall break. Winter break is 2 weeks. There's a 4-day weekend in February around President's Day, spring break, and then again finishing the year on May 28th. And then I'll proceed it to the next year if that's okay, or I can stop for questions here, either way. Okay. And then 27-28 is going to look very, very, very similar. Similar start dates. We do not have to close for Election Day in an odd year, so we will not, and we'll use that day somewhere else. But the breaks are all very similar, and then again, we conclude on May 26th before Memorial Day.
Do we have any questions?
Any questions?
Oh, Ms. Huddle.
The spring breaks always fall before or after Easter?
After Easter.
Always after Easter.
Well, not always after Easter, but these 2 are after Easter, just based on when the date falls. And we are able to accommodate Good Friday in both calendars as well. In 27-28, it is a full closure. And then in 26-27, we are able to do March 26th as an unencumbered teacher workday for Good Friday.
Anybody else?
It is, well, Good Friday is March 26th, and then spring break is March 29th through April 2nd.
Anybody else? All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, that brings us to the last item on the discussion agenda, discussion of board policy KE, public concerns and complaints.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Last one is the South Carolina School Boards Association Model Policy for KE Public Concerns and Complaints. As you know, we have been talking about the definitions between concerns, complaints, grievances, retaliations, and what does it mean to be resolved satisfactorily. The only difference from what I've been presenting and what the policy states is it adds a different level. At this level, that it includes the teacher or staff member. If a complaint cannot be resolved directly, a process will be made available for review at progressively higher levels as follows. And so this puts the levels very clearly by adding a fifth level in line with the model policy. We would then, as we move to other readings of this, develop we would develop a process for submitting these complaints through rule. You see in your packet that this is also aligned to existing policies that we have, mainly for the principals, CFA, and for school boards as well, school board members.
Mr. Satterfield, you had your hand up?
I had one question, Dr. Ross. In this policy, I haven't read it. That's the reason I'm asking this question. Will schools follow? Will schools make sure parents follow this so they can't? I don't want to talk to that teacher. You know, they need to talk to the teacher first, in all fairness, and then they follow the steps, the principal or the supervisor.
That's correct. We try to get it resolved at the point closest to the incident as possible, and that allows that principal to have better data in terms of resolving it and further up the chain. Yes, sir.
The reason I ask that is because a lot of times teachers get frustrated because they find out something that's happened, a decision by the principal. I've been in that position mistakenly. They make a decision, and then the teacher says, well, why didn't you talk to me about it? And purely understandable. So I would hope that that would be the order, chain of command, or however you want to say it, so that teachers feel like they are being valued and respected when they're dealing with a certain situation with a parent or a child.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any comments? Ms. Huddle?
So, Dr. Ross, are you advocating that we adopt the model policy?
Yes, ma'am.
And any changes to that policy?
We didn't recommend any. We just wanted to hear from you all, and I know it's late. We can bring it back for another discussion before a reading, but we just wanted to have more discussion with you all. The last time, if you remember this presentation, it did not have teacher staff, so we did add that to be in line with the model policy.
Okay, so like based on our last discussion, I mean, I just want to make sure I understand kind of how this policy would work and specifically your expectations. So if a member of a parent comes to us and one of us and says, my child got suspended because of X, Y, and Z, and I don't agree with it. We should send them back per the policy to, in this case, it's probably the principal. It could be the teacher, but I'm assuming it would be the principal, correct?
So
if they were suspended.
That's a great clarification. What we would have is, and I think attached in your policy is three different references. If I was a parent and I looked online and I said, where do I take this complaint concern? I want to see, I need to call that teacher first. The majority of our complaints go straight to the principal. That's where the majority. So in policy CFA, they're going to refer it, to Ms. Satterfield's point, back to the teacher. Have you talked to the teacher? And I said, no, I haven't talked to the teacher. Well, our policy asks, let's see if you can resolve it with the teacher, their first person or their staff member. They call you back a day later, said, that didn't work out. Now it's on to the principal. So that's what everyone else. There are two other policies that result to your question. If a trustee receives it, I would actually refer those to the superintendent. Continue to refer those to the superintendent. And why is that? You set as ex officio, you set as quasi-judicial trustees impartial. It could be that this complaint may end up for your review. And so it's best that you're seen, as one of your policies says, impartial to all of it. So if a parent comes to you and says, my child was being bullied multiple times in that school, nothing's happening, refer that to the superintendent, and then I take that and I walk through the policy with that.
Okay. I mean, and I guess I'm just confused because I thought that previously we've been asked to send them back to normal processes.
I've asked you to send it to the superintendent.
Okay. So even if they haven't even gone through an initial process, like I get it, if
Oh,
they
I
say,
see.
I've been all the way to the principal and da-da-da-da-da, but what if they haven't talked to anybody?
And that's a good point. If they have, and that's a question, they say, I have a complaint, I'm coming to you about it. I think there's two ways to handle it. One, if that hasn't started, no facts have been determined. And so a lot of our policies cross each other, right? Staff conduct and review and all of that, it has to be measured in that. No facts have been determined. I haven't talked to anyone. You can make them aware of the public concerns and complaint process. And they say, okay, I know exactly what to do. But let's say they haven't done that. Let's say they have talked. And so I've talked with this teacher and you know, she's or he is not doing what they're supposed to do. You refer them to the principal, you could get a call from that parent that says, I talked to the trustee such and such, and they told me to talk to you. It may come off that trustee such and such is involved in this investigation or this complaint. It's better that at that point it's referred to the superintendent, because now facts have been determined, or a Dr. Turner, I think for lack of a better term, a record of action has been determined here. So if no action has happened whatsoever, and I haven't talked to anybody, you can tell them we have the board has a public concerns and complaints. This is how we handle it. What I do worry, though, is that if a record is being recorded and the complaint is against the principal, and they say, that principal's not doing anything, and you say, well, you need to now go to this chief. That may be misaligned, and so I hope that makes sense.
I guess I'm just concerned that we're going to become magnets. Mr. Satterfield's down there smiling. And, you know, I mean, once it gets in the weeds, I get that, but I guess I just feel like, can we not tell people, you know, here's the policy, go look it up, follow the policy. I mean, I just really don't want to get in the middle of a parent that's upset with their teacher.
I would, and I don't want y'all to be magnets. I think you can always, if someone has a concern, you can always reference them to the public concerns and complaints policy. That's your policy. What I do worry about is at what point you get the complaint. And not all your complaints start at level one. Some of them are at higher levels. And so, and we'll do our best to message how you handle these. But if you get those, you're never wrong referring them to the superintendent. You're never wrong referring them to the public concerns and complaints. If you get it in writing, I would ask that you send that to the superintendent, though.
I mean, maybe as we go through this, we could get the clarification in here or somewhere else, but I don't think anyone on here wants to become a magnet. We don't want to overwhelm you. And I do think there's a difference between how early it is in the process, and also, is it a general complaint, like, you know, yeah, they never mow the grass fast enough or whatever, versus I'm not happy because my child got a C and should have gotten an A.
Right.
I'll tell you, one of the things that the breakdowns oftentimes is just communication. If somebody came to me and they have come to me when I made a decision, and they said, I'm not happy with that decision, I'd say, well, you have the right to send an email to the superintendent. But if they come to me and say, Miss So-and-Jones, I say, have you talked to the teacher? I'll be glad to talk to you, but you got to talk to the teacher first. And 90% of the time, it's resolved. So, but I agree with you. It's sometimes the water can get muddy, and you want to get it as clear as you can. And sometimes there are special circumstances with a child because of maybe they're a child that has a disability or in a different class and things like that. But those are good questions, though.
Anybody else?
I move that we adjourn.
We have a second? All in favor? And the motion carries 7-0. Good night.